Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good evening. For today, we will be presenting our video presentation assignment for subject Accounting 407. We are actually Group F from the class CDCS 2595B. So today we have chosen a coffee stall, a local business called Sinngahngopi. But before we go further into our presentation, I would like to introduce our team members. Firstly, it's me, Muhammad Ali Ashraf bin Muhammad Azlan. And then we have Muhammad Faina Iman bin Muhammad Fairuz. And the third team member would be Muhammad Farzudin bin Risman. And the last team member would be Muhammad Faiz Izzuddin bin Muhammad Noor. And we have known as Pang Empat Kompi Slayer team. So, for today video presentation, we will talk various items consisting of 6 items. Number one would be business background. Then we're going to go over business characteristics, the classification of business item, and then of course we're going to talk about recording process, strength, weakness, improvement, and also lastly will be appendices. And then let's go over the first thing, which is background of the business. We have chosen a humble local business coffee stall that is beside a road called FF Sinngahngopi that is located within the Kuala Lumpur city. And specifically, it is around Jalan AU 2C/1 on Taman Setiawangsa. It is located directly behind the Aeon Setiawangsa. When we talked to the owner a week ago, we found out the business type is actually sole proprietorship, meaning that the business itself are being handled by her. And then, to be more specific, FF Sinngahngopi is actually established in May 2025. The core activity of FF Sinngahngopi would be selling coffee and non-coffee beverages retailing. So, for initial capital, the owner said that it is 5,000 ringgit, which is come from her own savings. There were no loans were made, and the worker is actually two, which is her cousins and the owner itself, herself. Then we're going to talk about the business type characteristics, specifically on sole proprietorship. Of course, as we know, sole proprietorship is single ownership, meaning that one person has full authority over all decisions and operations. Then, of course, sole proprietorship meaning that it is unlimited liability. The owner is personally liable for all business obligations. There is no legal distinctions between the owner and the business entity, meaning that if the business itself has a loan that cannot be repaid, the creditors can go over the owner assets to sell it and repay the debt. And lastly, for personal funding, the operations are funded purely through personal saving, which is 5,000 ringgit, without relying on external bank loans or credit. For specifically on FF Sinngahngopi business characteristic, we're going to go over 4 items, which is main services, target market, the operating hours, and also operating method. For main services, they only sell coffee and non-coffee beverages only, meaning that they say like coffee, like Americano, non-coffee would be like matcha, right? So it is focused purely on drinks, meaning there is no like food or other than drinks. The theme for this service or the business is actually Grab and Go beverages services, meaning that you come, you pay for your drink, and you go with your day. Next, we're going to go over the target market. It is being targeted for employees in the surrounding industrial area. And then, and to be more specific, it is actually focuses on factory workers and construction site personnel, because the surrounding around the coffee stall is actually construction, many construction sites over there. So for peak operating hours, the highest customer traffic is actually during after work hours, because how accessible FF Sinngahngopi is, because it is located beside the road, people can just parking like beside the road and then get a coffee. So it is very accessible, and it's also busiest during weekdays because of construction that are going over there. And then for operating method, they uses a tent for the roadside store. So it is a physical roadside store. they use Z10. For payment wise, they are actually cashless friendly by utilizing QR payment terminal. Then we're going to go over the supply and inventory styles. When we talk about when we talk to the owners, she said that the restocking schedule is very flexible and ad hoc because the raw materials itself are purchased based on current usage rather than fixed daily deliveries. And she also stated that the factory that she's been getting the bean is actually from Kampung Jawa on Klang, Selangor, called Chuan Ho Coffee Factory. So the restock bean is actually via order on WhatsApp by the owner herself.
Next, we continue with classification of business item. So here, there are 5 things that we will cover on this topic, which is first asset, liabilities, capital, revenue, and the expenses. So, let's begin with assets, which are the economic resources owned by a business to run its daily operation. For Sinngahngopi, we have classified these resources into 2 distinct categories, which is non-current assets and current assets. Our non-current assets are long-term physical resources intended to support the business for more than 1 year. This includes the roadside canopy tent structure, the commercial espresso machine, the coffee grinder, and the digital QR payment scanner terminal. Crucially, it also includes a motor vehicle, specifically the owner's car, which is heavily utilized to travel and fetch raw materials and coffee beans from supplier. On the other hand, our current assets represent a short-term, highly liquid resources. For this, coffee stall, our current asset consists of the physical inventory of unused paper and plastic takeaway cups, alongside the daily liquid cash flow to keep in the drawer for customer change. So here we will see the pictures of the asset for the Sinngahngopi. Next, we move to the liabilities, which is represent the external debt or financial obligation that a business owes to outside parties. Interestingly, Sinngahngopi operates with completely zero liabilities. Under current liabilities, which are short-term debt due within a year, the balance is nil because the owner settles all raw material invoice with supplier upfront using instant cash. Similarly, under non-current liabilities, which are a long-term obligation, there are absolutely no business bank loans or hire purchase financing debt tied to the business. Sinngahngopi is entirely debt-free. Move on to the next slide, which is a capital. Because of the business has zero external liabilities, its funding structure relies entirely on owner equity. Owner's equity represents the owner's personal financial claim against the business resources. For Sinngahngopi, the initial capital contribution is Rm5,000. The owner injected this full amount straight from a private personal saving account to launch the stall. This means the owner retains 100% internal financial equity control over all shop operation with no outside interference. Now, let's review the daily trading activities, starting with revenue. Revenue is the total gross income earned from core business operating activities such as selling goods. Sinngahngopi practice a highly focused product strategy where 100% of their revenues come strictly from freshly brewed coffee sales. They do not generate any secondary side income from selling pastries, pre-packed beans, or renting out space to other food vendors. Every single ringgit of revenue flows directly from a daily hot and iced beverage transaction. And then lastly, we have expenses, which are structural costs incurred during the day-to-day running of the business. We have broken down Sinngahngopi expenses into fixed and variable categories. Their primary operational expenses are variable costs. This includes restocking raw ingredient like coffee bean, fresh milk, syrup, ice, and takeaway packaging. Because this cash outflow depend heavily on weekly customer demand. The restocking dates and operational costs fluctuate and are quite irregular. In addition to these variable costs, the business also pay out regular fixed expenses, which includes the monthly site rental for their roadside lot and a basic electricity utility bills. This concludes the classification of business item for Sinngahngopi. I will now hand over the floor to our next speaker to explain the daily recording process.
Okay, next is the recording process. So the process start with the source document, followed by recording transaction in the journal. Next is the information is transferred to the ledger, then summarized in the trial balance, and finally prepared into financial statement. This process is important to ensure that every transaction is properly recorded, organized, checked, and reported. Okay, firstly is the source document. Basically, source document are the original evidence of a business transaction. Without source document, a transaction cannot be verified or recorded. For Sinngahngopi, example of source document includes a sale receipt, QR payment transaction report, supplies receipt, supplier invoice, cash inflow record, and also cash outflow record. This document contain information that are important such as date, amounts, and parties involved. For example, when a customer buy a cup of coffee using QR payment, the payment receipt become a source document. After we collecting source document, the next step is to recording the transaction in the journal. A journal, also known as the first book of accounting record. Transactions are recorded in chronological order, meaning they are entered according to the date they occur. The journal use the double entry system, where every transaction effect at least two account through debit and credit entries. Example of transaction recorded include daily sales, restocking expenses, sales return, and also purchase return. For example, if Sinngahngopi purchase coffee beans with a cash, the inventory account is debited while the cash is credited. Once the transactions are recorded in the journal, they are next to transfer to the ledger. The ledger is the master record where transactions are grouped according to specific account. It uses the account to classify information into categories such as cash, sales, revenue, inventory, and expenses. The ledger helps calculate the balance of each account and provide a clear summary of financial information. For example, all sales transactions recorded in the journal will be collected under the sales revenue account in the ledger. The next step is to preparing the trial balance. A trial balance is a summary of all closing balance from the ledger account at a specific date. It separates balance into two columns, which is debit and credit. The main purpose is to check mathematically accuracy. The total debit must equal to the total credit. If both total are equal, it indicates that the accounting record are balanced. For example, if total debits are 10,000 and total credit are also 10,000, the records are balanced. Next, the final stage of the accounting cycle is to preparing a financial statement. So financial statement are the final output of accounting and provide information about business performance and financial position. There are two main statements, which is income statement and balance sheet. So income statement shows revenue and expenses. determines whether the business made a profit or loss, while the balance sheet shows assets, liabilities, and owner equity. It reflects the financial position of the business at a specific date. These reports help business owner make decisions and evaluate business performance. So in conclusion, Sinngahngopi follow a complete accounting recording process. Transaction start with source document, are recorded in journal, then organized in ledger. After that, checked through trial balance, and finally reported in financial statement. This process helps ensure the accuracy, accountability, and better business decision making.
Next, I will present the recording process of Sinngahngopi. The business divides its daily tracking into two major categories. Firstly, tracking sale, which is strictly handled by the number of cups sold. And the second one is keeping a restocking record for daily business supply. Both of these tracking is done by keeping it on WhatsApp group. I mean the tracking. Next, we move on to the strength of this business. Let's take a look at strength of Sinngahngopi, what is the current business model and setup. Firstly, the low financial cost and risk, where the business operate on a debt-free model shield the owner from external and financial pressure. Second one is niche and focused product strategy, where the business offer a 100% coffee-only menu. Operation remain tightly controlled and efficient. The next one is direct profit incentive, where all profits flow directly back to the sole owner itself, creating a strong driving motivation for the owner. Next one is the absolute control. Being a sole proprietorship gives the owner full management and operational decision making. Next one is the simplicity, where the daily workflow is straightforward and requires zero complex accounting training to execute. That's why they're using WhatsApp group. And then the last one is low setup costs, where the owner utilizes an initial capital of 5,000 ringgit and cap initial financial barriers exceptionally low. Next one, we move on to the weakness of the business. We have identified the key weakness in the current recording and structural process of the business. First one is unlimited liability. As a sole proprietorship, the owner faces full personal, legal, and financial exposure if the business goes under. Next one is tracking sale on WhatsApp, where the owner itself relies solely on a WhatsApp chat group as a digital ledger makes it disorganized to audit or trace any expenses back historically. Last one is the mismatch in cash and inventory. Due to manual tracking errors, the cash drawer frequently fails to tally with the actual number of physical coffee cup used during the busy shift. Next one. The last one is the improvement. To overcome this challenge, our group proposed 3 key improvements. The first one is to upgrade from WhatsApp to Post app. Transitioning to a free smartphone point of sale app will automatically track cash flow and digital transactions seamlessly. The next one is menu expansion, where we suggest to introduce a minor addition like pastry, packaged bean can open a brand new revenue stream without heavily increasing overhead costs. The final one is to implement a structured cup counting sheet, where we replace mental math with a physical daily inventory sheet, where the owner will log the exact starting and closing cup counts, completely eliminating cash to inventory mismatches and untally situation. Next, the appendix. This is the this is the Sinngahngopi stall, where we have the coffee machine and many other things to produce coffee. That's all from us. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.